Okay, so in the previous videos we've talked a lot about quadratics. We just finished talking about factoring quadratics. So in our final set of videos what we're doing is solving quadratics. So this is probably the most important section in this chapter, so be sure you pay special attention to it. So here in these two problems what we're doing is solving by factoring. Okay, now anytime you are solving any type of equation you can use graphing. So that's always an option, but what I'm doing in these videos is showing you how to do it by hand. So right now we're solving by factoring. We're going to do two examples. So the first example I want to do in red. So I have x squared plus 3x minus 18 equals 0. I'm not worried about the equals 0 part right now. What I want to do is just focus on the left-hand side of the equation, the x squared plus 3x minus 18, and I want to factor that. Alright, well this is a trinomial, and as we saw in the previous set of videos, anytime we have a trinomial we use the bottoms-up method. First, my leading coefficient is 1. And so, since my leading coefficient is 1, all I have to do is look for factors of negative 18 that add up to 3. Well, you might want to think about that. Factors of negative 18 are 1 and 18. This is just scratch work on the side. 2 and 9. And then 3 and 6. We want to find two factors out of this list that will add up to negative 3. Don't forget, you get to also consider positive and negative factors. Well, I know positive 6 minus 3 is going to be positive 3. So that's our first check. Our B term was positive 3. Now I need to double check that these two factors will work because positive 6 times negative 3 does equal negative 18, which is what I had here in my last term. So our double check is complete, just like we did in the previous video. So this factors into x plus 6 times x minus 3, still equal to 0. This was just scratch work on the side, so I'm going to get rid of it now. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to apply a property called the zero product property. The zero product property just means you take each factor individually and set it equal to 0. So for instance, my first factor, x plus 6, zero product property says I can take that factor and set it equal to 0 and then solve it. So minus 6 minus 6. So x equals negative 6. That's going to be one of my answers. Now, the zero product property says take the other factor and set it equal to 0. So x minus 3 equal to 0. And solve it like normal. So plus 3 plus 3. So x equals positive 3. So by factoring and using the zero product property, once we have factored, I find my two answers. X equals negative 6 and x equals 3. Okay? I'm going to do the second problem now. It's a little bit more complicated. If the factoring doesn't work well for you, then please use graphing, okay, because that's going to work anytime. If you do use graphing instead of t, you're going to need to replace the t with an x. It's the only modification. We're going to focus on factoring though. First thing you want to do, if you have a problem that looks similar to this, you got stuff on both sides, you need to get everything on one side of the equation. So I'm just going to start off by saying minus 3t minus 3t. Cancel out. So I have 2t squared minus 20t plus 45 equals negative 5. Okay, I still need to move negative 5 over to the left-hand side, so plus 5 plus 5. So 2t squared minus 20t plus 50 equals 0. Great. So this is where we're at now. Again, when you're solving by factoring, you want everything to be on one side of the equation and you won't need an equal 0. Once you have that, then you're ready to start factoring. This is a trinomial. It has 3 pieces, so we're going to use the bottoms-up method. This time my leading coefficient is not 1, so I'm definitely going to have to do bottoms-up. To do bottoms-up, what we're going to do is take our first coefficient and our last constant and multiply those two together. So we end up with t squared minus 20t plus 100. Again, all I did was 2 times 50 is 100. Okay, now if you struggle with the bottoms up method, what I'm doing here, please go back and watch that video that we just talked about. Now what I want to do is my leading coefficient is now 1, so I'm looking for factors of 100 that add up to negative 20. Okay, so just offhand, let's list out factors of 100. So we know we have positive and negative factors, so 1 in 100, 2 in 50, let's see, 3 doesn't work, 4 in 25, and I think that might be it. So what we're looking for now are factors of 100 that will add up to negative 20. Actually, let's see if we can go a little bit farther. I need to pull up my calculator because we need some more factors, I believe. I might have left some out. So I'm going to pull up my calculator real quick. I should have already had this ready to go, but I forgot. So just bear with me just a minute. Okay, and let's pull back up the problem and calculator. So I'm looking for factors of 20. So let's try 3. 100 divided by 3. See if it comes out clean. This is just scratch work. Doesn't come out clean, so 3 is not a factor. 100 divided by 4, we know is 25. 100 divided by 5, so 5 and 20. Left that one out. Let's put it in. And let's keep going. 6 and divided by 100, or sorry, 100 divided by 6. Doesn't work. 100 divided by 7. Doesn't work. 100 divided by 8. Doesn't work. 100 divided by 9. Doesn't work. And 100 divided by 10. So 10 and 10. Okay, now, so finally, what we have are two factors that will add up to negative 20. With negative 10 and negative 10 could be called. Negative 10 plus negative 10 is negative 20. We multiply those two together. Negative 10 times negative 10 equals positive 100. So sometimes you're just going to have to hunt and find the two factors that you need, like I did. And I just used my calculator, demonstrated that. Of course, I could have done that in my head, but I wanted to show you. Again, we're looking for nice whole number factor, or nice integer factors, I should say. Okay, so this is scratch work. So this guy right here factors into t minus 10 times t minus 10, and this is still equal to 0. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my scratch work. That way it's not my way anymore. So now that we have this, before I do anything else, so I have to remember in my very first step, I multiplied by 2. So the bottoms up method says I now need to divide these by 2. Okay, and I want to clean up this fraction as much as I can. Negative 10 divided by 2 is 5, so we have t minus 5 and t minus 5 equals 0. Alright, so now that we've completed the bottoms-up factoring method, we're now ready to apply the zero product property. The zero product property just says we take each factor and set it equal to 0. So we have t minus 5 equals 0, so plus 5 plus 5. So t equals 5. I'm going to take the other factor, set it equal to 0. T minus 5 equals 0, so plus 5 plus 5. So t equals 5. These two are called repeated roots because they're identical, so this is called a repeated root. So what that means is if you did this by graphing, you're only going to have one solution because these two answers essentially sit on top of each other, for lack of a better explanation, okay? So graphically, it's only going to look at one answer, but it's actually two answers that are sitting on top of each other. And that's it for solving by quadratics by factoring. Remember, there's other types of quadratics out there, different factoring methods that you could do. Just apply those as needed. The key is get everything on one side first, and then apply the appropriate factoring method. Once you have it factored, use the zero product property. Set each of your factors equal to 0, and then solve. That's it. Let me know if you got questions.